Hello everybody and welcome to another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have on the show today Dominic Versace of View Agent. How are you, Dominic?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Simon. How are you?
Good. I'm all right. Yeah, not bad. Just waiting for those pubs to open again, but you know that's different. Dominic, we've known each other a while from my old repick days, and you're a serial tech guru, I think it's fair to say, ex-agent, which we'll come on to in a second. So just to give you credentials there as why people should listen to you.
Thanks, Simon.
Today we're going to be talking about reputation management has just got a whole lot easier. Now, I know a bit about reputation management, and that's not my own, obviously, because that'd be an impossible job. Could you explain to everyone out there succinctly what does reputation management mean to you?
Sure. So I get asked this a fair bit from estate agents. So reputation in general is just people's opinions and beliefs about an individual and obviously about an estate agency. Now, whether that's factual or not, it's just what people perceive that to be. So from an estate agent's point of view, well, from actually any business's point of view, you know, you've heard the saying, reputation is everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, a positive reputation effectively will win you business and builds trust, and people want to do business with people who they perceive to have a positive reputation. But for those who have a negative reputation, it's the complete opposite. People just won't want to do business with you, and effectively they will just go to your competitors to do business. So, you know, that's it in a nutshell. It's just people's beliefs and opinions about your business.
Okay, perfect. That's really handy. And we're going to explore that and develop that as we talk over the course of the next few minutes and everything else. Just to give your background, we always like to get an understanding of you know, why people created their businesses and the bit of the backstory. Without going into War and Peace, just give us your sort of how you got here.
Sure. So you can probably tell by my accent. Well, it's a hybrid accent now, but originally from Australia. I've been an estate agent since I was 18 years old. I worked for some of the big franchises over in Australia,
Yep.
LJ Hooker, Ray White, you know, some of these big national brands. And I learned the whole aspect of estate agency. So I'm a qualified property manager as well as a qualified sales negotiator. So I've done both aspects of the business.
Yep.
And almost I don't know, over 20 years ago now, I arrived in the UK. I'm showing my age. And
you know, I knew your age when you couldn't figure out exactly how many years it was. That's
yeah, I was trying to cover the grey hair as well, Simon. But anyway, yeah. So I came to the UK. So I did that for a long time over in Australia, and then I came over and I opened an estate agency here in London in Shoreditch, and I ran that for quite a while. And then I saw an opportunity in prop tech. It was at its infancy back then, and here I am.
What was it about prop tech that you know managed to, I suppose, lure you away from? Obviously, clearly you were a dedicated agent and everything else there. But what was it about technology in particular that kind of caught your eye?
I think one of the main things was how other industries adopted technology really quickly, and estate agency was a little bit slower off the mark. Now they are obviously, you've got your Rightmoves and your Zooplas, and that's just transformed the way we search for property. But there's other aspects to prop tech that, in fact, when I started, the term prop tech didn't even exist. No. So I believe that there was an opportunity there to that there was a lot of growth in this space, and I wanted to get involved in that.
Yeah, and clearly being an advocate of technology and what it could do anyway, it was a natural fit, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back to it. So the issue, as I understand it, there is underpinning everything. You've got View Agent, which is a review site in its own thing. Now, of course, it won't be you know, it won't win the no shit Sherlock award to say that there are, you know, other review sites out there. In fact, there's quite a few of them, and I can just well imagine a few people rolling their eyes. Oh, that's exactly what we need, as another review site. But actually, the reputation management piece is the really core differential, isn't it? The secret sauce element of what you're about.
Exactly. So that's our focus. So we are actually a reputation management platform. We have got a bespoke review platform that sits alongside that, but we're not pigeonholing ourselves into just our own review platform. We've embraced other review platforms to form part of this reputation management, and they include Google reviews and Facebook reviews.
Yeah.
So reviews do form a really big part of the reputation management platform. And that's because they just form part of our lives and all our decision making. You know, you try and go to Amazon and not read a review or book a hotel. You know, we do this as part of our lives, and the state agency is no different, where you can't actually hide from that anymore because it is part of our decision making as consumers. You know, back in the day when I actually first started, I do remember, you know, if somebody had something negative to say, they'd write a letter and post it to your boss with a complaint, or do it over the phone. Or if they had something positive to say, it'd be like a testimonial letter, and they'd send that in the post, and you'd use that in your, you know, presentations and so on. But now, you know, that's old school. Now, at their fingertips, people can express their views globally, you know, where thousands of people can actually read those opinions and those beliefs. So now we can't hide from that aspect anymore. We actually have to embrace it and do something about it. And it does become tricky, especially if you're on, you know, a lot of platforms and there's a lot of reviews going on and you're a busy agency and there's a lot going on. You know, there needs to be a way to be able to manage those reviews. And that's where we came up with View Agents, where we can basically manage all your reviews in one platform. So in one dashboard. So it makes it really easy for you to manage that.
So this is a vital point here I need to get across. So essentially what's happened before is a lot of people obviously try to focus on one web review website to nurture those leads. Now that's fine, and I understand why you would do that. But because then they will be pointed back to them by the members of the business. But it doesn't mean then that you're still not getting reviewed by the public at large on those other platforms. And frankly, sticking your head in the sand and just kind of pretending that those other ones, just because you've said, oh, well, we're going with, you know, whether that's a Google or a Facebook or a FIFA or whoever else it is there, is the wrong choice, isn't it? And what the problem is, you can be a hero on Google and a villain on Facebook, can't you? And unless you're willing to tolerate that all those people on Facebook are just kind of idiots or whatever else there, you've not got a full view of that, as you spoke about it, so important reputation.
Yeah, so you'd be surprised. I'm doing a demo with an agent and I'm on their View Agents dashboard, and I go to their Facebook reviews, and I had an agent say to me, I didn't even know I had Facebook reviews. So you know, sometimes it's just awareness. And then some of them highlight, well, why aren't these replied to? So they didn't even know they haven't even replied to reviews because they're so busy with other aspects of their business. So we just want to make that a lot easier for them to highlight that as an overview or in a granular perspective with each individual review, so we can do both.
Got you. And one of the things that, again, jumped out at me when you were talking about it was the element that you're the first kind of property specific review platform with this reputation element there. You know, so it's not just a generic review platform. You actually, when they're going through, for example, and giving reviews, they're doing it based around actual questions about where they are in either the sales or lettings process specifically, aren't they? So you can actually have a laser focus on you know, if that satisfaction score isn't good, why it isn't, and drill into that part of the business to try and rectify it.
So exactly right. So when you're on our own review platform, we first categorize who the person writing the review is. So it might be a seller with a house on the market. So there'll be really short stars that they have to click, you know, from everything from a listing presentation right through to the process, because it is a process. It's not like buying a toaster where you just order it and it arrives. You know, selling a house can take 6 months. There's a lot of moving parts. There's surveys, there's solicitors, there's, you know, valuations, and there's mortgages, and there's a whole bunch of things that go on with that. Several buyers negotiating. So we break down the different aspects in a really simple form, but then you can get an overview of what actually people are saying about you, both positive and negative. And then at least it enables you to action that and see, okay, this is the downside of our business. This is what we need to work on, because these are the comments coming through. So we even go even further than that, where you can even tag a staff member along with that review. Now that doesn't domain, but the business owner can see what people are saying about individual staff members and think, well, okay, maybe this person needs a little bit extra training in this part of the business where someone else might need something else. So we break it down. Unlike, I don't like talking about other review platforms, but say, for example, Google, I can put 1-star agents rubbish. Okay, what am I going to get out of that? Right? How can I improve my business? What can I do about it? I can't do anything. And how do I even know it's a verified review? You can't do any of that. Yeah. Even though Google's a global brand, it's sort of limited in our industry where we're quite unique. We created a unique platform to cater for that.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too wanky about it, but you genuinely went into this, didn't you, wanting to raise standards and wanting to do right by the agents, and famously, agents in the lettings world just they just tear their hair out with this issue where tenants just seemingly blame them for absolutely every issue, to the degree that so many lettings agency businesses try and do everything they can to separate the lettings reviews, because otherwise they will drag down the whole company's profile just because of these tenants having a pop at them.
Yes.
There's two elements there. First of all, we'll talk about that element in terms of how you obviously, you're catering for that. But then secondly as well, just that overall piece about wanting to, I suppose, rectify things and improve the reporting mechanism.
Yeah. So the first part of your question, I'll just give you a really short story about what actually happened to me. When I arrived in the UK, I was at a party in London and I was fresh off the boat, and I met some guys and we're having a pint, and I didn't know these guys, and introducing ourselves. And one of the guys asked me, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm an estate agent." And another guy said, "Boo." And then he goes, "Only joking."
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself,
welcome to the UK.
No, but I thought to myself, many a true word said in jest. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually a really good estate agent, hardworking, 6 days a week, and I'm committed to my occupation. This is a career for me.
Yeah.
And there was a stigma attached, and it's like that in Australia as well. And I thought, there's got to be a way to improve that.
So just before we move on from that, it's not quite as bad, is it, in Australia? I mean, I know there's that kind of, they talk about commission breath famously. Tom Panos talks about agents, just chasing it. But actually, it does seem to be perceived as having a better place, isn't it? Or is that
a little bit better. But then I've spoken to estate agents in the US, and when I've told them that story, they go, "Yeah, I get it." So it seems to be a global, issue. So what my thought was okay, you're right. A lot of agents don't like reviews because it's shooting the messenger, especially when it comes to lettings, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I had one review come through where this agent's rubbish. I've had no hot water for 2 days and blah, 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 blah. And then the agent replied, "Well, we immediately sent over some temporary heating for you. Yeah. We got in touch with the landlord. We tried to get in touch with the landlord, but he was abroad and we couldn't get a hold of him. So we did everything we can to resolve the problem in the shortest amount of time." And in fairness, the agent did exactly what an agent was meant to do in that situation. They couldn't have done anything else. Yeah. Sure, there was a time lag where there was no hot water or heating, but they tried to rectify it as quickly as they could. But they still got a negative review where, in fact, it was the landlord that forgot to tell the agent that he was going to be around. There was other, so there was that aspect to it where I get that agent didn't deserve a 1-star review, but they did everything they could. Yeah. So one of the things I would like to stress, and what agents, I'll give you an example. I just had this not long ago where a sale fell through and they gave the agent a negative review.
Yeah.
So the agent's reply was absolutely brilliant. First that it was, I know house moving is quite a stressful process. We know that you're also buying a house and selling a house. You've got 2 transactions going on at the same time. But let me clarify. In a really polite way, we vetted the buyer. We checked, that they had a mortgage approved, and so on and so on. So they did everything they possibly could. We contacted the buyer several times to try and see if we can salvage the deal and so on. But ultimately, they got a negative review. But when you read the reply, it was actually brilliant. They turned a negative into a positive, because if I read that as a consumer, I would think, well, of course, there's no perfect business. So, but at least these guys, when they had something negative happen, they approached it in a really professional way that would still want me to do business with them, even though the review was negative, if that makes sense. So there are aspects where you can times that you can turn a negative into a positive, but I completely get from a lettings point of view. Actually, majority of our negative reviews are from tenants.
So let's just look at one of the ways that you've tried to deal with that, where, you know, in terms of being able to manage what is just a real world problem. Sorry. What I like about what you've done is there's a number of people who deviate to certain platforms because they may be either open formats or they might be closed formats.
That's
The
right.
really clever thing you've got in your solution is that actually it's up to the agent to decide. Do you want to just spend a bit of time just explaining what that open and closed difference is?
Yeah, sure. So you can customize your review platform. So an open review platform means the leave a review button appears on your branch page or view agent. So anyone can go there and leave a review. Even though those reviews are verified, it's still open for anyone to leave a review. We also have, just to digress quickly, we also have the functionality for you to leave a Google review and a Facebook review also. So back to the view agents reviews.
Yeah.
So you can leave it open for that to happen, or you can customize it and have it closed where that button does not appear.
Yeah.
So no one can actually go leave you a review. And then the way you get them to leave you a review is you invite them to do so. So we have two options where you can invite them. One is via email. So there's a link in your dashboard that you just send, or there's an SMS. So you put their mobile number and you click send, and it'll automatically send them an invite to leave a review. So we have two options there, but you're right. The agent chooses whether they want it closed, a private platform, or they want it open to the public platform, but that's the agent's choice.
So, and that's, you know, that's a lovely angle to be able to have, isn't it, in terms of, you know, to look at that. And you mentioned there, you know, when you obviously from Australia as well, one of the biggest dynamics and differences there is whereas we have a brand culture over here around the actual business itself, it's far more focused on the individual in well, both in America actually and Australia. What's interesting is that definitely seems to be happening apace here, hasn't it? Is that the public are more and more demanding and want to know about the individual themselves, and whether that's looking at the likes of, you know, your Keller Williams or your EXP brokers, you know, that's developing apace, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So I remember the very first day of when I became an estate agent, my boss told me, this business is about relationships.
Yeah.
It's people, not property. So it's about individuals talking to other individuals.
Yeah.
So we've taken that on board, and obviously the Australian in me's tried to bring that over onto the platform.
Yeah.
So we do have an option where when you do write a review, you can tag an individual agent, and then that data goes back to the business owner, the estate agency owner or the manager, and they can see how their staff are progressing when it comes to reviews.
Yeah.
And it gives them data back to see, you know, X amount of reviews, whether they're 1 star, 5 star, but it just gives them an idea of how their staff are performing when it comes to reviews.
Well, what's fantastic about it is where you can see this going, and it's happening. You know, we'll come on to obviously where you're at in terms of the growth of the company at the moment, but you know, people are already starting to do that over here in the way that the Aussies do, whereby those valuers will use it as an absolute sales tool, won't they? They will say, look back to these particular platforms and see. Don't take my word for it. See what's being said about me on there by my clients and everything else. And you can really see that developing over here as being a real asset in the armory of a good valuer to try and win the business.
Absolutely, completely agree with that. So, sorry, I was going to say something then. Sorry, what was it? Do you have any other?
No, just well, I suppose just in terms of that, where we're at in terms of the evolution of, you know, company against there. But the point is, it's not an either or, is it? The two sit on your site completely comfortably together, don't they? So yes, you can see the company itself, but you can see the individual from there. And of course, those high flyers get to use this as an extra tool.
Absolutely. Well, that's a state agency, isn't it? It's a combination of brand and people. You know, you can't run an agency without people. You know, people have tried to do a fully electronic version of a state agency. It just doesn't work.
Right.
You know, you need human beings behind there, and we assess their performance to help business owners know, you know, how their individual staff and where they need help as well. So sometimes, you know, you might have an agent where when it's under listing presentation, they score quite low.
Yeah.
And then in your list, you know, this person needs more help when it comes to that aspect of the business.
Genuine training and development tool, then, isn't it? You know, if they are good in all these other areas, and you've got the feedback keeps coming back. It's not just, you know, not just one review, but time after time. That's gold dust for a business owner.
Absolutely, and that was actually one of those. That feature was actually feedback from an agent and saying, well, how can we actually help improve our staff? And then we built in this aspect into the platform.
Excellent. And so let's talk about that we just spoke about it in terms of the growth stage. So just about where you're up to. So the first and most important thing is you've already got a huge amount of data on the site, albeit you're literally really only a few weeks old in terms of the new View agent, because my understanding is that you acquired a previous business, a review platform here, and you've essentially built on the back of that, haven't you? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So we did acquire another review platform, but we've changed the business model entirely. So we've got just over 260,000 reviews on the platform now. So we effectively become a review aggregator. And that's a combination of View Agents reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. So there's a lot of data on the platform. And what that does is when an agent comes onto their dashboard, they can see their own data, but then they've got comparative data. So they can see with, say, for example, within a 5-mile radius of their branch, you might think you're doing a really good job as an agent and you've got great reputation and, you know, you've got some good reviews and that's great. Then when you go to the platform, and I've had agents do this and I think, well, hang on, maybe I'm not doing as good as I thought I was doing because I've got 5 competitors in the area and they've just completely blown me away. So here I am thinking I'm doing really well, but in fact, you know, these guys are, the standards are a lot higher than mine. I need to lift and do something.
And Dominic, you could do one or two things there. You can put your head in the sand again, can't you? In terms of, as I just said before, if you've got bad reviews on Facebook, and just say it doesn't exist. If you are getting 4-star reviews and thinking, you know what, that's not bad, but everyone else is getting 4.8 or above there, that's the challenge, isn't it? And everything is, you don't operate in isolation, in commercial isolation there, or indeed, in this case, reputational isolation.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got, for example, you might have, you know, 4 or 5 5-star reviews on the platform, but your reputation score is actually quite low compared to your competitors. And I've been asked, why is it so low? And one thing is I look through their dashboard and I think, well, have a look at all these reviews that you've got. You haven't replied to any of them. So ignoring a customer that either writes a positive review and just saying thank you, you know, really appreciate the review, people will read that. So you're not replying just to that person. You also got to understand that other people will read those reviews and think, you know what, very courteous estate agent, you know, and appreciative of the business. Or you get a negative review. And well, some people are quite argumentative. Some agents are. There's not many, but some are argumentative with that.
These are great because these are like the Basil Fawlty ones, aren't they?
That's a no-no, right? So no argumentative. But it's a courteous reply, or you just ignore that. So when you're not ignoring the tenant or the person who wrote that negative, you're ignoring the people who are reading it and thinking, does this guy really care about his customers if you can't even bother to reply to any of these reviews?
And what's really interesting, Dominic, is I know for myself and every bit of research I've read on it, is that people are, you know, look, they're looking at the overall reviews, but actually just as important to them as the overall score and the 5-star ones is they're deviating in the way that you do on Amazon to those low ones there. And because as much as anything, you know, nobody's perfect, so it adds a bit of credence. But what they're watching for is how did the company deal with that, respond to that? It tells you everything as you've just highlighted if they don't respond. Whereas if they respond and they say, you know, hold your hands up and said, look, we let ourselves down on here, but we want to try and make it right. That, I think, is really where customer service is at, isn't it, in this day?
Yeah, and that's, like I said earlier, it's turning a negative into a positive, because if you can see, because there's always going to be a problem when you sell or let a home. Like, it's never sort of perfect, environment to be in. So, okay, things will go wrong. How will you handle it when it goes wrong? I want to know that. So when you read those, actually, there was a survey I read that people read the reply as much as they read the review.
Definitely.
So people think they just read the review, but they don't. They read the replies just as much, especially with a negative review. You want to see how this agent handles that. And it's so important to do that.
Yeah, it is. I can completely understand that. It makes total sense to me that you would want to do it. I mean, okay, I'm always going to deviate to food, so excuse this analogy, but it's like suddenly you see these these restaurants that have 5,000 reviews, all 5-star, and you're just like, come on, there's just no honesty there, is there? As you just said, it is a complicated, difficult business. So stop. In the past, people would just get obsessed about, well, what happens when we get our first bad review? Well, the solution is in your hands. There are actually ratios that they say, you need to get, I can't remember what it is. I think it's about 8 to 1 positives for every negative. But if you're a half decent business, that shouldn't be the biggest challenge in the world, should it? And as I said, if every one of those unperfect reviews adds validity and trust to the whole process, you should just be seeing this as an ongoing challenge, really.
100% agree. So if you did see a business that just only had 5-star reviews, most people probably just ignore that, because it just can't be true. How can that be true? What have they done? Where are the negative reviews? But when you get an agent that's got a balance, you're right, you're going to have more positive than negative. But when you find that there's some negative reviews, great. Let me read those negative reviews and let me see how the agent dealt with that problem. That is a positive.
Yeah, I love, just tying all these bits together is actually what you've been able to do, because famously one of the online agents always, they used to have absolutely perfect scores for a long period of time, when actually agents knew they were pretty crap. And it was very clear that they were asking for the reviews. They actually rewarded their staff to ask the minute they were listed, when the vendor was happy, clappy, excited, and obviously when they hadn't sold their home down the line, they'd already left a review. But what's actually great about your system is the way that you can leave it at different stages. Yes, you can plot that and you can get it, but actually you can educate your clients over the life cycle of what is going to be coming, and say, look, being honest, if you look at our reviews, is you will be excited at this first stage. Then, obviously it might fall off a little bit, the expectation, you'll find out it's a difficult process, but look at this at the end of it. Here's the reward at the end of the rainbow, if you like. We do look after our clients better than any of our competition. 97% of our clients would recommend us again, sat there for you, and that's why you should work with us. And what I think is wonderful about this is that you can use this to compare again, that benchmarking element you were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you just use sales, for example, we've got two sides of that. Houses on the market, house sold or not sold.
Yeah.
You can actually send that review twice, because the questions that are asked to the seller are different. So then you can actually yourself get that feedback to think, okay, we've done all these things right, even though we didn't sell that house. But this is what we need to work, and this is where it went wrong in the view of the seller. So you can. I like to look at, we're more than just reviews, because we also give feedback back to the agent. And a lot of review platforms don't do that. It's either 1-star, short. Some of them don't even have comments. It's just 1-star. They just want the volume. They just want the quantity, but there's no substance behind that. You don't know what any of that means.
It's all macro, isn't it? It's the inability to actually do anything with that information is critical here. But that benchmarking, let's just drill into another aspect, and this is where I think it really gets just so interesting, is you do have the ability, don't you, to essentially, as you said, compare against the competition. So for those people that are using tools out there like Spectre 20CI, where they are looking at how their competitors measure up in terms of raw statistics and performance, now what you're going to be able to have ostensibly is a reputational version of those, aren't you, where you can actually look at what you're doing. So if one of your competitors is doing the numbers, but actually, is not leaving a very good, customer service there, that will come out in the wash, won't it, on the website?
Yeah, so it's quite a comprehensive dashboard. So yes, very easy to look at and to use. But for example, it does give you the raw numbers. So it tells you, you've got 60 Google reviews, where your average competitors within a 5 mile radius might have 120. You might think 60 is good, but they've actually got more reviews. And then when you drill down to the next section, it might say what their average scores are in that area, and you can compare that to your average score. We do a combination score, so we put together your view agents, Facebook and Google review, and give you one overall score, and then you can compare that with your competitors. And not only do we do that, all these comparisons, all this benchmarking is also done against the UK average. Right. So you can actually use two elements to benchmark your performance. Think if you're above the UK average or below, and then the bottom section of the dashboard explains where you need to work on and which platforms you're struggling with or which platforms you're excelling at. So that does help you do that as well.
So good. Let me just think about this while I'm talking out loud, just thinking, which is always a bit dangerous. But that example before, where you've actually got a really good reputation on the likes of Google, on view agents, whatever else. But Facebook is a problem there. Is what you can do then isn't it, is try and encourage some people, happy clients who told you, look, we're really pleased with that. Actually, that issue of having it in your own hands is to say, look, that's really fantastic, Mr. Vendor, sir. Would you mind giving us a review on Facebook and sending them that link? But you're doing it with the knowledge that that is then going to help improve your reputational score there, isn't it?
That's exactly what agents do on our platform. They can actually see where they're need more help when it comes to reviews, and they'll push more reviews that way to get the score up. They can actually visually see that really easily where they need improving. And also what they can do is then go to the Facebook tab on our platform and look at each individual Facebook review and then think, well, hang on, that's a spam review. That shouldn't even be there. I've got to get that one off. So it also highlights on an individual review level what's good and bad and what's right or wrong. So they can do that as well.
Yeah, that's so. Look, it's probably a bit of a pushing the comparison too far, but it's a bit like that old whack-a-mole, isn't it? But reputational. It's like that one's not particularly good. We need to fill some gaps in there and sort that out. I think though, looking at what's interesting is if you've not noticed anything over this last year, if they can't walk into your offices anymore, maybe even they can't even see all your boards in the area, digital and reputation has become more important than ever. That's not gonna fall away either there. And talking to some of my friends in the business, people like Simon Woodcock, a great agent down at Robinson, Michael and Jackson, and what he was talking about was, whereas at board meetings and managers meetings, kind of social media reporting and things like reviews would be an afterthought, maybe an email out that would had become front and center of their meetings, because they were now aware that was how people were getting to know about them.
Yeah, so it's a good point. It's a new feature that we've just introduced, are these reporting tools. So we want to make it easy for the agent to spread the word. So one thing, it's nice having it on the dashboard. You can make business decisions based on what you can see, but then you want to use those to actually win instructions and spread the word. So we've got a tool where, you can print your latest reviews on a PDF, A4 sheet of paper, you print them off, Google, Facebook, view agent. You don't have to go copy and paste like people do at the moment. It just click one button and you print it off, all your latest reviews. You can do a summary of your reputation score and your branch performance. You can show that to the vendor or landlord. And another brand new feature we've introduced is a social media tool where we actually promote the agent's reviews for them. So we do that on LinkedIn, we do that on Twitter, we do that on Facebook. So we actually have a campaign every month for a branch, and we promote them with all their handles that are relevant. So we do some research on each branch, and we customize some images with their name on it, and we send that out as a very bespoke style social media campaign. On top of that, this is probably the most successful thing we've done with social media, is part of your subscription package is we pay for Facebook advertising. So we use Facebook demographic data
Yep.
within a proximity of your branch.
Yep.
And then we tailor make an ad and we send that out on Facebook advertising as all part of the fee. And we've had an extraordinarily good response from that. But it's targeted. It's just focused on sellers and landlords.
Just give us a flavour of that, just one of them, and again, just to make the point that this is not a guarantee it will be the same, but just I think it's really important to understand the sort of figures here. For that particular agent you mentioned off camera to me, talk us through the numbers that actually went out to.
The Facebook ad. Yeah. So we tested it actually on a 24-hour campaign. So we did just a 1-day campaign just to see what it was like. One agent got 15 click-throughs and about 3,000 views.
So these are not small figures, you know. And again, I get a bit. Look, it goes without saying, I'm obviously absolutely convinced by review platforms and everything else, by the definition of what we're about. But you know, and I always get frustrated in our B2B world because of course our numbers are so much lower. But those are still big numbers in the B2C world, aren't they? In terms of that's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, but it's what I loved about that stat. It's not just eyeballs. It's actually we've specifically targeted people who potentially will sell their home and who are landlords.
Yeah.
So, you know, Facebook's got amazing data on individuals. Yeah. It's actually quite scary how much data they've got on individuals.
Yeah.
So we've tailor-made through an expert in Facebook a profile that we're looking for a potential house seller and a landlord. Yeah. And so it's only been that ad's only been put in front of them, and that response rate is incredible.
Yeah, really good. I think that is a vital element. So, and again, you know, you can't have too many people talking positively about you, can you? So, from an agent's point of view, to have that being bounced back as well, yeah, that's good. That's fantastic.
Definitely.
Okay, talk us through the first thing we should mention is you're part of our new launch program as View Agents on the platform. So, you know, we normally kind of do quarterly updates there, but you're obviously a new platform. You're going to be in beta for a while. I think you were saying a bit like Gmail. What were they, 7 years while you perfect your model and everything else there? But we're going to be doing a webinar with you each month over the next few months to really get an understanding and see that progress. So we've got a load that we'll be coming back to, but to kind of give us an overview, obviously, of anyone that's interested in this. There were a lot of obviously review platforms that actually were really expensive. I mean, almost, you know, getting above £150 per branch and everything else there. You've turned this model completely on its head, haven't you, in terms of not just on the review element, but for the reputation management element there. Do you want to just give us an overview of the commercials so people can understand whether this is for them or not?
Sure. So we've got a Kerfuffle price.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. That wasn't me plugging, but well done.
So the Pro subscription, which is our highest subscription, which includes everything on the platform, is normally £49 a month. But for Kerfuffle members, it's £29 a month per branch.
Thank you very much. Thank you for thinking of us. That's wonderful.
And then we have a middle tier of £9 a month.
Yeah.
Which also includes an element of features.
Yeah.
And then we have a very basic version, which is free.
So basically, just to get your reviews up there, and that's pretty much.
Correct.
And to do that, just so I mean, that's and what's wonderful there though is so they can claim their page on that free one, see what it's like, get the reviews up on there. As and when that starts to build, they can find their way with that incredibly cost-effective. You know, obviously the next one there, until they feel confident enough wanting all the things like benchmarking at the top level one there.
Correct. Yeah. So the free version is they claim their branch, they can populate their details. You know, their landlords and sellers can actually find the branch, and they can collect View Agents reviews, and they can display the View Agents reviews. And then the middle tier is it's a level up from that.
Yeah.
And we're trying to be really cost effective. You know, at £9 a month, I believe is very competitive in our pricing.
just to be clear, on that 9.91, you still get to be able to see those the collation element. You're able to see the Facebook and the Google reviews, aren't you? Even on that mid tier one.
Correct.
So I mean, for me, under 10 quid a month, just to save the pain in the arse of logging into all these different places and being aware of that, that's quite a game changer, actually, isn't it?
I hope so. Yeah. So we're trying to make that as easy as possible for agents. And then the top tier is you get to see pretty much everything that we described in there. So, and that also includes, your social media campaign and Facebook campaign, where we actually proactively promote your reviews for you.
Brilliant. Well, look, we'll delve into more of those kind of, because there's loads of stuff we haven't spoken about. The sentiment tool you've got as well, which actually reads the sentiment of the review itself. That warrants a whole discussion separately, but we don't want to overwhelm people here. But look, I'm incredibly greedy, as you know, Dominic. You don't get to 18 stone without being that. When you told me that, and thank you again for that, for our wonderful kerfufflers, I came back and said, come on, what else can you do? So we really believe here at Kerfuffle in wanting to give our Kerfuffle members the best possible chance to evaluate systems before they have to sign on the dotted line. You ordinarily have a 2-week trial, but you've extended that out to a month to really give people as much as a go as they need to find out, don't they, to see whether this is a platform they should be using. Great.
Sure. Exactly right.
Right, is there anything that I haven't taken? As I said, we're going to get to know each other wonderfully well digitally over the next couple of months anyway. Is there anything else before we leave today that we should be aware of?
I think we've covered a fair bit. There's a few other things, but I think we should save that for the next. I've noticed I've been on for long enough, because when I started, it was light in the background. Now through your sliding doors, it's dark.
Anyone who's been out to a pub with me knows that that's a very familiar. It's when it starts getting light again, that's when you want to panic.
Exactly.
Okay, look, Dominic, I think that's really useful. We'll deal into a different aspect of what we're going to do next time. But for everybody there, I would recommend you give Dominic. Goes without saying, you can get in contact on the website of yours and get a demonstration and listen to what you're talking about.
Yeah, and thanks for the opportunity, Simon. Kerfuffle's a fantastic platform. So whoever's obviously watching, if you haven't signed up to Kerfuffle, I'll definitely sign up to them. It's a great platform.
You stop it. Okay. All right, Dominic. Thank you very much. Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.
Simon.